Okay, so in this video, I'm gonna break down the exact Instagram story strategy that we used to basically in the last 2 months of May cash collect over 24k in USD, so 18.2k pounds. And if you want to check these, I provided the screenshots for you guys. So if you want to go through all of these, you can, but I'm not really going to go through everything. But as you can see here, 24k in around 15 days, and this is also like the stats of the sales call. So pretty good close rate, pretty good no show or show rate as well, and all of that stuff. So everything that we did with these came from IG stories, except this one, as you can see. So most of, like 95% came from IG stories, like exclusively. So essentially, this is exactly what we did with IG stories. I'll break everything down in this video, like the buckets basically that we put our IG story content into, and that you can replicate into your business. So if you sell anything online, if you have an audience or anything like that, and you're trying to like maximize what you can do with your audience, stories is oftentimes overlooked because a lot of people, they focus on, ads, they focus on content, they focus on like all of these things, but they don't really have a system in place to make sure that they are getting the most that they can out of their already existing followers. So with stories, you warm people up a lot before they actually turn into, let's say, the DMs or onto a sales call and stuff. So when they actually show up, they're super warm. They've seen your results. They've seen you day in and day out on your stories, which obviously you can do the same with content, but with stories, you can put out like a volume like every single day. And if people start like wanting to watch your stories every day and see what you're up to and see like whatever you got going on in your stories, they're going to just get hammered every single day with your stories. So that's why it's why it's basically super effective when it comes to like essentially warming up your audience. So as you have probably heard before, the know, like, and trust factor, right? And this is basically what this plays upon, right? So if you can build up the know, like, and trust factor, the chances of you actually converting somebody onto a sales call, or when they're actually on the sales call, for them to close and stuff, dramatically increases, right? And stories is probably the best way to do this because you can be like super in the details and in the day-to-day with your clients, and you can show a shit ton of client results and all of these things. And it's just like people over time are just going to be, so acclimated to you. Essentially, they're going to feel like they already know you, they trust you, they've seen your results, and when they show up to the call, they're basically sold, right? So let me show you first of all the actual framework that we basically use with stories, right? And as you can see with this guy, we have around like between 5k to 15k story views. 15k is like super good. Around 5k is like pretty, bad essentially. Around 10k is usually where it's at. So this is basically, the framework, right? So we have 5 buckets that we put our stories into. Essentially 5, like just to have like a system to this, right? So you have rituals, you have results, you have insights, rants, and call to actions, right? A lot of people, they put out call to actions, they put out some random stuff on stories and stuff like that, and maybe some results, but they don't really have like a proper strategy in place. So every single day they know what to post and why they're posting it and the outcomes and stuff like that. So this kind of just helps put everything into segments so it's easy to follow. So number 1 is going to be rituals. This is going to be, anything that you do day to day that you can kind of like consistently do. So for example, going to the gym, journaling, reading, any of those things that's like repeatable, that if you're a trader, it can be you wake up, I don't know anything about trading, but you wake up and you check the markets in the morning, like I don't know, like something that's people can relate to you for, and you show that you have good habits and whatever, like things that's going to be something that your audience also potentially does, right? Or like strive to do, right? So if you eat clean, you go to the gym, you wake up early, you journal, all of these things, you should post them, right? And every single day, people can just see that you're showing up, you're fucking putting in the effort and stuff like that. So as you can see with this guy, it would be running, BJJ, training in the gym, running again, like eating clean, all of these things that, obviously as a fitness coach is very important to show that you're actually, doing the stuff that you teach your clients to do. And then obviously results. This is probably one of the biggest ones, like the most important one, because I would say not even I would say, but like the fact is results is probably the most persuasive thing you can do in your marketing, right? So a lot of people like they don't even post the results consistently, right? They don't really post like the day-to-day stuff that's going on inside of their community or their program or their one-to-one like mentorships and stuff, because they think like, oh, it's just minor stuff, like I don't need to post everything. But if you can post every day that something good is happening with your clients, it can be just a small thing, like, you know, he got like a good trade in. This guy, you know, went to the gym when he was, you know, bitching about like not going. It can be like, oh, this guy is hitting his weekly target when it comes to fitness. It can be, you know, this guy got his first sale. Like every single day you can post something about your clients that is like basically showing your audience that like this guy gets results, and the people inside of his program love the fact that they actually ended up buying. Like they're getting a return, they're happy, they love the program, and they're getting results. Super important. So as you can see here, it can be just screenshots of conversations. You know, even this one, you know, welcoming new clients to your program. You know, stories with like, as you can see here, texts and stuff from your clients. That just shows that like these guys are actually getting results. They're overcoming like their, you know, issues, and you are helping them get results. And obviously that's the same results as all, like everybody following you, or at least your ICP would strive to actually, you know, achieve, right? And then we have insights. So this is like, both of these are kind of the same, but like insights is more, you know, like any scenario, situations, like mindset shifts that come up either with you or your clients that you can share. So kind of like a story, if you will. So as you can see here, this one as an example would be an example of like a mindset thing, or like a mental health thing that was over, like he basically explains how he overcame that issue, whatever, right? So anything that you can do to basically reframe or reposition like their issues, so you can help them kind of understand their problem. Like you kind of get what I mean. Like you basically help them reframe their issues, or your client's issues, or your issues. So this can be, for example, if you had a bad month, you can speak about those, the lessons, all of these things, and kind of how you reframe those things. And again, this is very important, because if people don't know you, who you are as a person, they don't really like they don't really connect with you, stuff like that. This is basically to build up like the connection factor, like they can connect with you. They see the ups and downs. You're not just like a action figure who never does anything wrong or never thinks. Like you can show them the day-to-day process essentially. And rants is kind of the same thing, right? So this would just be like you basically going on rants and stories, as you can see here. All of these are videos. You can do texts as well, but it can be about anything essentially. But it can be like, that's why I'm saying it's kind of the same thing. So you can throw rocks at your enemies. You can shatter like any faulty beliefs that they have, right? So anything that you can do to kind of like reframe your audience and get them to think in the way that, you know, a successful client of yours would think. Because if they can think like your successful clients, it's more likely that they will actually, you know, see you as an authority and actually end up wanting to join the program, because they know you, they like you, and they trust you at this point, right? And then call to actions obviously is where you essentially like have any sort of call to actions, right? So it can be freebies, it can even be YouTube videos. So if you're posting videos on YouTube, you can just literally tell people like, hey, I just made this video. If you want access, DM me the word X, Y, and Z, and I'll send it to you. And the reason why you don't want to have links and stuff is because if you have links, most of the time you're just going to tank your like reach with the story, because Instagram doesn't like it when, you know, you have a story and off of that story people end up clicking off the app essentially. So they want to keep people on the app. So it's better to just get people to DM you a word, or click tap a sticker, for example, on your story, and you send them the video like manually in the DMs. And also you're able to start a conversation with these people, right? That's probably the most important thing, right? So every time you get a sticker tap, or somebody replies to your poll, or they reply to like all of these, like this is what I call like soft call to actions, because it's not like a direct call to action where it's like, oh, do you want to join, like I'm opening up 5 spots and I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. Like it's very, they don't really understand that they're doing like an action, but they're taking an action that gets you a notification and it shows you intent, right? So if you see like these, so like, what's your biggest struggle at the moment? A clear plan, a strategy, you know, sticking to the plan, support, like I need more discipline. Like if people click on these, you can see what they reply. So basically they just said like, I need more discipline, for example. So that would be an opening, like basically something you can open the conversation with, obviously, because you have the solution to that problem. Same with Q&As. You can also reply to the questions on your story. So if people, submit questions, you can use those questions to answer them on your story with a video, for example. All of these things, just like engaging with your audience. So the key thing is like making them actually want to consume your stories, because a lot of the time people just post, call to actions and results, like that's it. And it can sometimes get a little bit boring, like it's repetitive, it's the same thing. People kind of understand what you're doing, especially in potentially a more sophisticated market that kind of knows, let's say in business, for example. But if you make your stories interesting with stories, you share your personal insights, like all of these things, and you sprinkle in call to actions, polls, lead magnets, and all of these things, results and stuff like that, it's just going to be a place where people come back to your stories daily and check them out. And if you have a lot of stories, even though most of the time, if you post a lot of stories back to back, you get less views, right? So if you post one story, you might get 10K views, but if you post 10 stories, especially the last story is going to get way less views, but it's still better because you warm those people up so much. So like the people that watch all of your stories every single day, they're going to be like super, super warm, right? And you would basically, like the game plan here is like, we get all of these people to opt into the stories. We have an appointment setter that reaches out to people watching the story, people that engage on the story, so people that like the story, people that reply to the story, and obviously, especially people that click on polls, people that submit questions on here, people that tap the sticker, people that, if you have a DMs, like a sequence, basically. So like I said, this is more like soft call to actions. You can also do like more hard call to actions where you can have like a specific thing where it's like a specific offer. Like, hey, I'm looking for 5 people to X, Y, and Z. Obviously, you would get potentially inbound DMs from that, stuff like that, right? So but what I'm saying here is like all of these stories, even though not every single one has call to action, you can reach out to just the people viewing your stories, because you know that if people are constantly viewing your stories, those are usually the best leads, right? So what we have done here is just reaching out to story views, engagement. We reach out to obviously polls and, people taking actions, liking stories, all of these things. And we found that that's some of the most like qualified, most warm people in the audience comes from just literally story views and liking stories and stuff like that. Because if they watch one story, chances are they have been following you, they check you out, all of these things, right? It's very rare that you check a random guy's story, right? You probably check the same people on their stories day to day, right? So if you get 10K views on a story pretty consistently, most of the time it's a very small, like it's kind of like the same people watching your stories. They're tuning into your stories daily, right? So if you can reach out to those people, they're going to obviously be the most warm. So this is literally what we do, like the framework essentially. And this guy as well, he just broke it down very neatly for me. So I just stole his stuff completely and I'm using it in this video. So shout out to this guy. But as you can see here, this just breaks down kind of what you're doing, right? So you can have a visual hook, obviously a written hook essentially. This also includes social proof. You would have the actual thing, like that value piece in the story or whatever, and then a call to action. Again, I wouldn't recommend a link, so I don't know why this guy put a link in, but I would rather do like a call to action with a DME a word or tap the sticker, whatever. Same here, lifestyle. So obviously this depends on the offer, but if you run a, for example, trading offer, obviously lifestyle is very important. That's essentially what people buy into, like the end result is to get the lifestyle. So having a lifestyle photo, like the setup or whatever you want to call it, the hook, the social proof, and then again, call to action. But I would recommend not having call to actions on all of these. So it's the same thing here. Like I'm not going to go through all of these, but you get the point, right? Like you're basically getting people to like watch you on a daily. You can kind of shift their beliefs. You can show them day to day what you do. They know you and like you at this point. You show them results. They start trusting you. You give them insights. Like all of these things on a daily basis just becomes like propaganda, basically, right? And you can do this with content as well, obviously, but it's easier to make 10 stories a day than 10 pieces of content a day. And also stories is more raw, behind the scenes. It's more off the cuff and stuff. So people tend to really like the stuff that you do on stories, whereas content and stuff can sometimes be a little bit more like intentional and stuff like that. Like stories oftentimes is something people, they just watch it day in and day out and day in and day out, right? So that's what I would say. And again, these leads are usually the warmest because they tend to watch not only one of your stories, but they tend to come back and see all of your stories all the time, right? So that's what we did. 24K in around 15 days, just off of stories with an appointment setter, reaching out to everybody that engages and views and everything like that. And again, this is the DM flow that we use. So if you want this, you can just DM me on IG. This is the exact one that we used, not just for stories, but for everything like ads and content and organic, like basically what the appointment setter uses in the DMs. If you want that, you can DM me on IG. I'll send it to you for free. And yeah, that's the video. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. And I guess that's it. Ciao, ciao.